Hey, checking in with uh, 4 to 12 of How to Pronounce Knife by Suvan Tamunganska. Tamunganska. Yes. I'm doing a terrible disservice. I'm probably doing a disservice to this audiobook, well, this book collection of short stories, because they are um, definitely literary short stories, um, elusive, uh, seemingly slight, probably all those little telling details, and I'm just kind of zipping through what is it is a very short book over just to begin with, of short stories, all kind of detailing sort of the Laotian immigrant experience in Canada. Um, so yeah, we go on with more stories. There's a story of a boxer who his not a good boxer. He's discovered that he is basically the training horse that people get on to beat on their way to going to titles. So and he's got a very tough sister. He seems kind of gentle in a way, and his sister is very, very tough. And she's kind of a drill sergeant kind of sort of thing, and she's got a nail billet business. It's like, come and work for me at this nail thing. I mean, come is so kind of on this that she smacks him, because it's like you're dishing out ice cream at this place, this crap that I wouldn't even like spoon off the ground. um so it's like, come and do that, and he does, and he's kind of oohed and awed over by the customers, gets tons of tips. She kind of yells at him for that, like, it's like, in my own thing I can't even get kind of this thing, but you're a guy and you get like, ooh, you're doing you're trying your best, kind of all that sort of stuff. um and there's all this stuff. He's attracted to one of the customers come in, who's a white woman, and she's like, he's crestfallen when she does come in with the well-dressed kind of businessman boyfriend at some point. And she says, like, that woman was never gonna never gonna go for a guy who's like painting nails in a nail salon. And he kind of turns to her, and it's like, you know give me my dream. Let me have my dream. It's all I have. Let me have my dream. And sort of that's how the story ends. um so that was one that stuck out to me from this batch. There's one of often there's ones of children observing their parents. um there's okay, here, let me start off with a really guilt trip one, which is a girl who's the mother is basically stalking the girl. Like, she can see that she's, like, with her husband or something like that, kind of watching from a distance. And they do flashbacks of her going, arriving at school, and her daughter being horribly embarrassed about her. And she's like, there's a little bit of a thing here, like, you remember this day when you treated your mother so terribly. Her mother, who has had a stroke somewhere in their estrangement, and has had to take care of herself, has had to drag herself to the hospital several times. And the hospital be like, oh, well, you drove yourself here, so you don't need help, and they send her home. It's like, there's a pointed thing here of exactly how caring the Canadian system can be to people who aren't white. And it's like, oh, they would help, but it's like, oh, you're a woman of color, you can walk it off, kind of that sort of thing. That's an all too kind of true, and works. But she's in the car in the cold outside watching, and the implication, I think, is the end, that she's gonna die, maybe have another stroke, or just freeze to death. And it's like, wow, that's I Suvan Tamagaska Tam, Tam, is probably a child of immigrant parents, and think, wow, that's the guilt trippiest kind of like, and then she died because you were a bad daughter kind of story. Um, there's another story where the mother, uh, she's learning her English. She learns her English from like from soap operas, and jokes about him having an affairs and stuff like that. And they're at a park, and she sees a guy kind of stumble out of the apartment, and says, like, I'm leaving you, that's it, I'm leaving you. And she turns to the daughter and says, "You're going to be okay without me, aren't you? I don't have to worry about you." And she's like, "No." And she leaves. And that's like, and she never comes back. Never any contact ever. Just walks out of their lives. And the narrator is like in their 40s, and it's just like never came back. There's a couple in there where it's like, it's immigrant families where the marriages don't survive, and it's often they seem to be the wives. There's one where the guy whose name I can't remember the English, which is Jai, because it means heart. And he was a bus driver, and he saved up all this money so that his wife could go back to Laos to visit relatives, but he could only afford one ticket. And so he saves up the money, and then she goes to work and says, "Can I get the thing off?" At which point Frank, or Scott, or whatever his name, Frank, says, "Sure, you can, on a condition I come with you." And it comes with, and the story opens with her sitting on a bed in a bikini, very revealing bikini. And as it progresses, there's more and more of, obviously, they're having an affair right under him. You know, you kind of the humiliation, the kind of just how much battered down, to the point where he's come over, he's visiting the house, and they go into the bedroom and lock the door. And she's like, "I'm not gonna, we're just having fun. Why don't you want to have me to have friends?" It's like, it's kind of it's brutal, but you can see kind of like, people who leave everything in that one country and become the very lowest on the totem pole here, and how they either take advantage of, or how people cope, how people assimilate. You leave partner because they're the lowest, and you go hook up with some asshole who would do this. It's like, it's just gross. So yeah, I mean, I guess the stories are sticking. It's funny talking about the stories. It's like the stories are sticking with me. At the same time, I mean, they're talking about, this is immigrant experience in Canada, so it's talking about Canada. And it's talking about, like, how that affects people. I mean, my parents were immigrants, but they were immigrants from Scotland and England, so that's a bit different of an immigrant experience. Um, you know, uh, I struggle, like, how much I care about this. I mean, each story is pretty short. I think I've got one more story left, and it's a longer one. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. It's one of those kind of things of, like, it suffers from, it won the Giller Prize, which is a top literary prize in Canada for 2020. And I'm like, really? This one? It's like, there's a bit of a kind of like, it's good. They're well told stories. There's no stories that are particularly shaking me to my foundation in a way that I would expect for kind of like a high point of Canadian literature that, have an impact on me. But they're not stories that are aimed at me. I can only just give you my personal reaction, and I probably shouldn't let that, okay, this thing won a major Canadian literary prize, that's particularly anything I need to worry about as somebody thinking about the stories, other than to say, hey, a lot of people thought this was really good. What do you think? And I think, it's good. It's good. I was turning on the camera thinking, like, okay, how many of these stories will kind of stick in my head, and should I review and try and do that? Because I've just been sort of listening to them as I've been mowing the lawn and doing chopping the potatoes and onions for the barbecue. But yeah, they're okay. It's okay. I'll leave it at that for the moment. I'll listen to that final story, talk about that, and then I'll probably just do a review for this channel and leave it that way. All right, more videos later.